So, I just finished working out, and so my muscles are all like swollen, which I enjoy because like they look bigger than they actually are because they're swollen. Um, and I'm about to get in the shower in a minute because I haven't bathed because I didn't want to bathe until I was gonna take a shower. So I'm still kind of like, my hair is very kinky, like extremely kinky this morning. My face is kind of bleh, and I'm sweaty because like I was working out, obviously. And I decided I would do it, the video blog in this pose, because there's something about it, like my natural pose, and I probably thought about this way too much, but stay with me. Like there's something about how I think I look, my natural pose, like this, like in a chair, kind of hunched over with bad posture, my elbows on my knees, or the area above my knees, and kind of like leaned over. I don't know, there's something like very natural to me about this pose. I feel as if like my entire life, this is how I've been seen, like in this pose, which is a weird thought, I know. But like when I think of like in terms of like, oh, how will people like remember me? They're like, oh, they'll think of Luke like in a folding chair, hunched over like this. That's a weird thought, I know, but that's how I always imagine myself. So, this is gonna be kind of a scattershot blog, I think, because like I'm making progressions, getting past, what happened. And I think that like I should kind of like edify what occurred, even though you know all about it, you know exactly what happened, you know exactly what I went through and how I became and how I felt. And like there was kind of like a mini funk on the phone, but I think you know the reasons why it happened, and I hope that you can understand where I'm coming from, where that would like do that to me. It's not aimed at you. It's not directed at you whatsoever. Like I need to make that clear and emphasize that. Like it's not your fault. I know you already know that, but I assume that like there's a certain aspect that feels better by having me say that to you. Like by knowing that I acknowledge or I recognize that it's not your fault and that I'm not blaming you because of it. But there is a certain sort, I've said this multiple times, I know, like this blog is probably going to be like me repeating myself from all the other times I've repeated myself, but like there is a certain sort of unfamiliarity to it, like and it is kind of like discouraging and frustrating in ways because like you're having this really good conversation. I mean, we talked for like an hour and 20 minutes on the same topic, like just one topic. I mean, we deviated here and there and whatever, but like, but when we even deviated, it wasn't like very far away from the original topic. And so like we were having this really good discussion, and it was a discussion in which like I needed, for reasons that I told you before, because like if we didn't have that discussion, it would start to have like a negative slippery slope kind of effect. I just needed to know where you stand. It's that whole aspect of me knowing what you're thinking, knowing what's going on in your head. I need to know that. That's how this needs to be different. This is different because of that, because I know where you're coming from. I know your thoughts, or I can assume some of them and I imagine some of them, but like I need the communication from you. And so like I was getting that, and I was getting exactly what I needed. And then like I knew as soon as you talked about Jared texting you that your brain was going to go elsewhere. I'm not saying you completely deviated away from me. I'm sure I was still like somewhat in focus, but like now I'm having to like share the stage, with Jared on one end and then your kids on the other end, because like as you know, I'm sure it's hard to have like a meaningful discussion when you're trying to mother your kids, and I don't blame you for that either. Like I can't hold that against you because there's nothing you can do. You try your best and you do a very good job. And I don't know if I tell you that enough, but like I'm telling you it now. Like, you do a very satisfactory job the majority of the time balancing having like a relationship and like talking and being communicative with me, and also like parenting and mothering and doing what you need to do on your end. And so I'll fill you in on that right now and say that you do like a pretty satisfactory job. Do I wish for opportunities or occasions in which I have your total undivided attention? Of course. I mean, that's a dumb question. Yeah, I do wish for that, but that's unrealistic. I mean, you're a mother, so, and that's cool. Like, I'm not resentful towards that. I accept that. So, like, you're sharing the stage with the kids on one hand, and then on the other hand, I'm sharing the stage with Jared. Like, Jared, even though like it was outside of your control, you had no control over that. Like the fact that Jared presented again, basically, in a moment in which, like, you know, we were having a moment. It was basically the same sort of thing that happened yesterday in a weird way. Like, you know, we were finally having a moment. I was finally getting what I needed, and then Jared pops up and completely, well, not completely, but like ruins it, taints it, because I could tell as you were talking to me and as you were trying to like pay attention to me that your mind was elsewhere too. It's very easy to tell when you're preoccupied, basically. So, and I didn't bring it up while you were discussing it because I felt as if like getting something is better than getting nothing. And so like it is frustrating, and it does kind of bum me out sometimes, like the fact that, you know, I want to have these like real discussions with you, and I want to have these moments with you, especially when we set out to talk about it this morning, yesterday. And I mean, we did talk about it to a certain degree. It's just I had hoped for like no interruptions, or I mean minimal interruptions. Your kids, I mean that's I don't count those as interruptions really, because I can wait, you know, for that sort of thing. But so it is kind of frustrating in that sense, and I'm not gonna lie, I was frustrated and kind of depressed because of that, you know, because like we didn't get to like end, you know, the way that I wanted us to. We didn't get to like fully kind of like dovetail our conversation, and so like it's not as if we can't have that conversation again, because we can, or we can continue it, or we can fulfill it, and I'll be more than willing to. It's just, you know, the interruptions, it's hard to deal with the interruptions, especially when you're having a good moment, especially when you're like you know, in the midst of it. It's hard to have to step away and then kind of regain momentum. You know, I'm not used to that. So, but I'm not holding it against you either, though. I'm not making this into what last night was, because, like, to be honest with you, it's not your fault, as I already said. Like, it's not, there's nobody to punish here, you know. And I got a little frustrated about it earlier, but like it wasn't really that big of a deal. I explained it to you on the phone. I was getting over it while we were still on the phone. I was saying that, like, look, dude, it's cool. Like, I understand. It's just part of the scenario, and it is just part of the scenario. Do I wish it wasn't part of the scenario? Of course. But you know, I can only take or expect so much of what's going on right now, and you know, and that's what I'm doing. So, like, I hope you don't get disgruntled or frustrated with me about this, you know, and I know, like, the inclination to get frustrated or upset with me might be very attractive and might be easy to do. I just ask that you be patient with me, because, like, I am being extremely patient with you considering the situation. Whereas, I mean, again, I'm not persecuting you for what the situation is, but the situation, you are tied to it. And so when you come along, the situation comes along too. And I'm saying just be patient with me, because I'm being patient with you about it. It may not seem like I am, or it may not, like, just because I get bummed or frustrated or whatever, it may not seem as if I'm being patient, but trust me, I am. I very much am. So, yeah, that's it. It's not going to ruin my day. Me and you are fine, and we'll talk about it later. And if anything, like the way I see it, like what needs to be addressed, if there's anything that really needs to be addressed, or you can just repeat yourself, it's totally cool. I'll listen to it again in the letter, you know, because you said that you were thinking about addressing it in the letter, and there might be some subjects in which I address it in the letter and you kind of like build off of that, but that's up to you. Like, so, you know, there will be avenues in which we can talk about it again. Basically, my philosophy is that we will have time, you know, there will be more time for us at a later date. Am I impatient about having that time? Of course. Do I want it right now? Of course. Am I really annoying by asking myself these sort of self-questions and like answering my own questions? Yeah, it annoys me too. I just think, oh God, I gotta stop doing that. But we're cool, dude. Seriously, we are. I'm not just saying we're cool and we're not. We are. So I hope you have a good time costume hunting. And be honest, I hope you like take some footage of it. That'd be really cool. But if you don't, it's cool too. So I'll talk to you later. I love you. Now I have to get up and put my junk in the way of the camera.